I had the extreme privilege of having as one of my professors when I was working on my MBA, Dr. Warren Bennis. If you do not know Warren Bennis, he has conducted extensive research on leadership and power. He's probably best known for a couple of his books. One of them is Why Leaders Can't Lead, and the other one is On Becoming a Leader. Um, if I remember right, both of those books received awards, numerous awards. Uh, Actually, one of the book of the year awards in 1986 is the one that I'm reading here right now. All right, so many management experts have ranked Warren Bennis as one of the more influential uh, scholars that have contributed to the theory of management. So my relationship with him leaned heavily on that. I listened very attentively to his leadership conversations in class, and we had special relationships at the University of Southern California in the executive MBA program where we were allowed to eat in the faculty lounge. So I took full advantage of that, uh, eating lunch with him whenever he chose to hang around, and various other special events where he was a keynote speaker. I made sure that I would try to be in that room. So, what happened after I graduated? I became vice president and then quickly president and chief executive officer of a company by the name of World Marketing Services. It was an advertising agency. Now, advertising agencies, often referred to as a agencies, are dedicated to creating, planning, and handling the advertising and some forms of promotion for businesses. Um, we focused on the art industry. I grew up as an art lover, became an art advocate in many levels. At the time, I was actually chairman of an art organization and managing a dance company in Santa Monica, California. And what I learned is that what's very important when you're working with that industry and advertising in general is you want to develop a relationship with your clients. Okay, to me, the most successful ad agencies are the ones where you have such a relationship. So instead of having the quick 1 minute, 2 minute type ads that peak in and out of entertainment TV, we created infomercials. Okay, at first 30 minutes, and then I realized later that it was more cost effective to have a 60-minute infomercial. So that's what we did. I sat down with the artist. I got to know their art, their background, and all of those elements that led to whatever infomercial we put together for them. And so I led this firm from ideation to startup. I took advantages of FCC's regulations of commercial time to 16 minutes, and I marketed 30 and 60-minute infomercials, as I said before. I showed them, if I could, to 24-hour retailers of the broadcast and cable TV channels. All right, so I was responsible for how each television show was financed. I was responsible for how it was produced, and I was responsible for how it was distributed to owned and operated stations in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington D.C., Dallas, Detroit, and Atlanta. All right, had a pretty full plate as a newly minted MBA. So I want the subject of this little short video to be about leadership. So let me just say then, when I first started to have conversations with Warren Bennis, he talked a lot about great man theories. Way back then, the relevance of your leadership uh, was more related to some great events that you were a command of. That you were more of a dictatorial power person, and many of these folks were generals. It's probably no surprise to you then why many of the presidents of the United States came out of that world. But that gave way rather quickly to other leadership styles. Okay, so if you look at some of the leadership theories the great man theory or the hero theory, which is probably a better word for it, quickly gave way to trait theories. Now, trait theories also are a bit controversial. They have a lot to do with height. You'll find when you study history, a lot of your leaders were tall. Okay, so I don't know. I'm sort of mid height, so one can have your own opinion about whether or not I was tall or short. I don't believe I was short. But it also affected the intelligence and the attractiveness um, and the charisma of that leader. Now, at the time, I was starting to be a little bit charismatic. I had been involved in TV before. I was on a couple of shows, so I had a bit of charisma, and I thought myself relatively attractive. Let me see. Let me take a look at myself. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. Um, but there were other theories, contingency theories. There was behavioral theories. There's process leadership theories, transactional theories, transformational theories. So there's a lot of management theories, And what I learned rather quickly is when you are a CEO or president of a corporation, you have to be flexible to various leadership styles. Okay. At first, I was focused on management by exception, management by objectives a little bit, but more management by exception. I was trying to look at what were the challenges that seemed to be out there for other ad agencies and what I could do with my agency to kind of overcome those. Trying to look at some kind of contingency award that I could institute for being very responsive to that. Okay, but I quickly morphed into more of a transformational leadership style. Now, let me explain that. The reason for that is because many of these artists were just hanging their art in galleries. Sometimes they would do private shows as well, but they would be hanging in these galleries. Now, the gallery has a goal, but they don't want to rush to move it off the wall either. You might have visited galleries and you see the red dot on art, for instance, to say it's been sold, but they keep it up there for a while. So they met their objective to help the artist sell it, but they can't make room for another piece of art because it maintains that space. Okay, so mm, I felt that was a bit of a challenge. Uh, the individual considerations of the gallery overrode the considerations of the artist, in my opinion. Now, of course, uh, every artist is not going to jump right away to thinking about advertising on television. It's quite expensive choice. So what I did there is I was able to collaborate. I was able to gather similar artists together and begin to discuss with them how they could share in the cost to advertise on my show. Okay, and a little every now and then I had some conflict. There were a few artists that did not want to work with other artists, and I got quickly had to learn them. I had to travel around to a lot of galleries and art shows, so that I began to see who got along with whom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you start to realize, as I did, the challenge of leadership. I was a senior engineer for many years in the mid-level staff later as I got into project management. But as I became a CEO and a president, I had to really pursue another focus of group dynamic. What I did, this was in Burbank, California. So what I did is I went on the set a lot and I began to understand what my director what goals the director needed to make for a good shoot. I went into the editing studio a lot, and I quickly understood the high cost of editing film. So just a quick overview of that leadership experience, and I hope you gain from my conversation here that leadership and the style of your self interest sometimes can be extremely conflicting. So we have to learn to push away a bit on your self interest and begin to think more about the group and the group interests. And I contend here that if you're great at that, if you understand how to empower your group to be extremely effective, the follower and leader relationship will grow in a way that makes for a very effective tenure as the leader of your corporation. All right. So I hope you gain from this. Thanks for listening. I am Dr. Brandon Hamill.